welcome back to another vlog. I think this might be the last one I do for a little while because I don't really have anything that I need to cover or address, and the last few weeks have been going through my workout routine, what's involved with that, how I'm getting in shape, how I'm approaching exercise and diet, and what my kind of general overview of that is. So the goal or the aim is to lose approximately 30 kilograms in about 12 months' time, give or take, right? There's a plane going overhead right now. I wonder if the mic's picking that up. And I've been interested this week. I addressed this on Tuesday's video, but I'm interested this week to just address the notion of slowness in terms of an approach to life generally. I mean, we're living in such a fast, sped up culture, and not to approach things from a gendered perspective necessarily, but I mean, men tend to be quite sort of in a hurry. They have a tendency to rush, I think, and to put a lot of expectations in, I'm going to put in this big maximum effort. Everything's about 110%, and all these percentages that don't really exist. And, I think that that's a problem. I think it's a cultural problem. I think it can be a gender problem. It's mostly just a cultural problem at the moment, it seems. But certainly, we're in a results-driven society. Everything is about optimization, maximizing whatever it is, efficiency, productivity, those horrible, horrible words. So how to approach exercise, weight loss, whatever. I'm no expert. I have done it before, however, and I've done some other large-scale projects which are nothing to do with my body, although they're to do with my mind, so to that extent they are. But outside of the gym, I've written books, and I have completed, once upon a time I completed a PhD. So, these are long-term big projects, completing a book, completing a doctorate, a thesis. And you need to be able to break your large project down into components, otherwise you'll go crazy. So this is what my 12 months more or less looks like. Now, I mean, this isn't exact necessarily, but it's kind of an idea. Hopefully you can see the board reasonably well, but I've broken 12 months down into 3 16-week blocks. Each of the 16-week blocks is then broken down into 4-week sections, units. You use whatever words you want to use, and that's it. There is a 1-week break after the first block, another 1-week break after the second, and a 2-week break at the end of the year. So this allows time for some breaks as well. I've also talked about things being, maybe I haven't spoken about this, but doing things gradually, right? Incrementally, okay? So we're somewhere here at this point in time. And as I've said before, all I'm doing is 3 workouts, 4 45-minute walks, and Pilates every other week, every 10 days. Keep that stable. I intend to keep that stable for 8 weeks. Then I'm just going to add a 0.5 kilometre swim once a week, just as a different form of cardio. Bump some walking up just a little bit at the end of the first block. Take a week off, reset, and tackle the next. block. Okay. And, I allow this to change, but I don't imagine it will change too much, right? So, block 2, quick breakdown of that. 3 workouts again, only I'm going to add a high intensity interval training circuit at the end of each workout for 15 minutes, 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. The walks are going to stay the same at 3 a week for 45 minutes. I'm going to be adding in couch to 5K, getting a bit of running in gradually. I think that program lasts about 9 weeks, 8 weeks, something like this. And then keep the Pilates and keep the swimming, but up from 0.5 kilometre to 1 kilometre. Okay, so adding a few more things. Another week off, block 3, same again basically. 3 walks, 3 runs, Pilates, from 1 swim to 2 swims, from 3 workouts to 4, and from 15 minutes high intensity interval training to 20 at the end of sessions, 2 on, 1 off, as opposed to 3 on, 1 off. And, if I can get through that in a week, I'm in very, very good fitness, good health, and my body will adapt to what I'm doing, and the weight will come off. I mean, you don't have to pressure yourself into really hideous time constraints and do what will take you about a year to do in 3 or 4 months. I keep seeing lots of people online who have done a body transformation in 3 months or 4 months, and that's wonderful, that's great. I just don't think that the results will be sustained, simply because usually people are doing very sort of extra things, effortful things that they're not going to do for the rest of their life. There's actually a documentary on The Biggest Loser on Netflix at the moment, which I watched, which is quite good. Many of the contestants put the weight back on because I hope that's not getting picked up on the mic. There's cars. Because the conditions of the time that they were doing these drastic weight loss feats, it wasn't a normal environment. So this is all sustainable within my normal environment. Yes, I'm adding things gradually, but not so much, not heaps and heaps and heaps of difference. And I'm not really doing heaps and heaps of different things to my diet. If it turns out that the weight is just stuck, I might look at my diet. But, apart from that, that's pretty much what it looks like. And I've got to be honest, I don't care too much what I look like at the end of this, because I know that if I can do these things in a given week, if I can go for a run in the evening 3 or 4 times a week, if I can, get a couple of swims in, if I can get through my weight workouts, again, 3 or 4 times a week, I know that I'm in pretty good nick, and my body will look that way, So yeah, concentrating on numbers or getting fixated on outcomes is not great. Okay. Personally, I don't count calories, and I don't do this kind of results-driven, obsessive stuff, because I hate the word triggering, and I'm not going to use the word triggering, but that stuff really makes me feel uncomfortable. As someone who has, obsessive tendencies, the last thing I want to be doing or should be doing is counting calories and number crunching all the time. Yes, I understand those things are very, very efficient and they're wonderful. However, if you are of a mindset that has tendencies towards depression and anxiety and fixations on things, and your behaviors can become drastically unhealthy as a result of that, then counting and measuring and being results focused in that way is another plane. It's just not a good thing, okay? So you've got to do things that are going to be long lasting. They're going to keep you, you're going to stay sane while you do them. And they're also achievable, where you're not actually dying day after day, week after week, in order to get results fast, quicker. So slowness is a good thing. Slowness, do things incrementally, gradually. And then obviously I think there is a theory of the small bites. I think it's called the theory of small bites, or the process of small bites, that you take one bite at a time. This is, you could do it in 2-week units. You could do something very different, and you could add a fourth block of, you could do 12-week blocks, and you could add a fourth one, and you'd end up with the same number of weeks, obviously. You could split it down differently. And as I say, you could do 2 or 3 week units as opposed to the 4-week units that I've got up here. And your changes could be even smaller, or they could be larger, But I always like the idea of giving yourself time to adjust. Give yourself time mentally and physically to adapt to whatever you're doing. And I don't know why people want to do all this in a hurry. There is no race. I mean, spoiler alert, you're going to die one day. And I don't know, unless you're, some sort of secret agent spy, and you really need to get the codes to deactivate the nuclear device that's about to be launched in our direction, there's no rush. So calm down. The other thing I'm going to say too is learn the craft. Focus on craft. Focus on learning and not results. I wish more people would do this. I'm enjoying this slow process because I'm back to learning. Like, what does it feel like to get in the gym 3 times a week, and then to push a bit, to up the weights, to add an extra set? Those are sort of some other incremental changes that I do make, and will be making as well, is sets and rep ranges as well, plus exercises, number of exercises, and the degree of how challenging they are. But I'm enjoying this because I'm learning something again. I'm learning a craft, and that's the craft of, being a healthy, active person. And really, that's all I wanted to say. And that's why I like writing, and that's why I like fitness, because slow and steady, gradual processes get great results. A lot of people with writing, they want to have big creative bursts, and they want to do one full day of writing every 6 weeks or something like this. This is not how anybody writes a novel. You do 500 words a day, on the weekdays, which is whatever that is, 2,500 words. And, it takes you 6 months, 12 months to write a book. It just takes that long. So that's it. Slowness, focus on craft, focus on learning things, and try to enjoy the process, and don't put yourself under massive amounts of stress. Bye.